Cristiano, thank you for joining us today. And super excited to have this conversation with you and yourself, Qualcomm, 5G. It's such an important issue. But first, let's get to know you a little bit. You've been running the semiconductor business at Qualcomm for since 2018, and you're about to become the fourth CEO of Qualcomm in June. You'll be a prominent leader in the global rollout of 5G over the next decade. Let's start at the beginning. You're born, raised, and educated in Brazil, and came to America, joined Qualcomm in 1995. Tell us a little bit about your personal and professional journey to this point.
Yes, well, first of all, Jamie, good to see you. Very happy to be here and talking to you. Excited. I think it's exciting time for me, exciting time for Qualcomm, for the industry of 5G. So really happy to have this conversation. And thank you for the first question. Look, I've been, as you said, I've been born in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. Raised, went get my engineering degree in Brazil, and actually the first time I left Brazil was kind of 1994. I moved to Tokyo in Japan. I lived in Japan for about a year, working for a Japanese company. I'm sure you're familiar with it, NEC. And then Qualcomm hired in 1995, came to the United States, been here more than 25 years with Qualcomm. And it's been an incredible, I think, journey. I joined Qualcomm as an engineer. I've been, going to a number of different positions. And as you outlined, I've been, running and building on the product and semiconductor business of the company. Became president of the company in 2018. And I'm such a privilege to be named the incoming CEO of the company, in this June of 2021. So I'm going to be part of the class of 2021 of the Qualcomm CEOs, and very, very happy to be able to do that.
Well, you're following the footsteps of founder Irwin Jacobs, his son Paul Jacobs, Steve Mollenkamp, and you'll be the fourth in 40 plus years. So it's a pretty long tenure and very distinguished tenures by all of them. So talk a little bit about your leadership style and what have been some of the formative experiences along the way.
Well, I think, first of all, it's incredible, shoes to fill, especially, this company, which has been, created by our founder, somebody that I always admire, throughout my career at Qualcomm, and a company that has an incredible culture of innovation. And when I think about, my leadership style and my, throughout my career in Qualcomm and how I think about the company in the future is to always be focused on technology, be focused in, driving innovation, continue to keep the company with this, fire to change, the roadmap of technology, execute very well on industry transitions, and hopefully we never lose that. And, Qualcomm is a company that has set the pace of innovation in the wireless industry. And I think that's kind of our trademark. And and I'm going to be working really hard to keep that, especially as far as my leadership style. And a lot of people have been working with me throughout the years in Qualcomm. I'm very hands-on. I am interested in the technical aspects of technology. I also have been, really focused in making the company, a global company, building our business in different regions. Qualcomm has a vibrant business, for example, in regions like China, which, I built, almost over a decade. And I had spent a lot of time looking for opportunities for Qualcomm technologies outside the phone space. One of the strategies I put in place when I became president of the company in 2018 was to create business units that will look at how Qualcomm technology could go to the automotive sector, could go into the Internet of Things, into computing, and this plan of continue to identify new business opportunities and diversifying the company is probably going to be part of my vision and style of managing the company going forward.
Oh, that's great. Well, you've got a big opportunity ahead of you. A recent Accenture study commissioned by Qualcomm indicates that in the U.S. alone, 5G will generate up to $1.5 trillion of additional GDP between 2021 and 2025. So really, near term, and it has the potential to transform up to 16 million jobs in America. Yeah, and that's a 7% incremental growth to the economy. I mean, what what are some of the use cases for 5G or implications of 5G that you're most excited about?
Jamie, before I talk about the use cases, this is an incredibly important topic of conversation,
Yeah,
and it's especially as we look globally. As we hopefully get out of the pandemic soon.
yeah,
Economic recovery and growth is an important topic everywhere, and it's very clear to Qualcomm that as we think about the future of the economy and the future of the digital economy, 5G becomes a necessary ingredient. It is this technology that is no longer unique to the telecommunication sector. It's just not just about phones, and it's going to be part of any other industry as things get connected to the cloud 100% of the time. And it is indeed one of the largest opportunities we ever had for Qualcomm, but it's not just about Qualcomm.
yeah.
It's going to be part of the digital transformation of many industries we enable. And that's why when we have conversation about 5G, not only with the United States government, over the years, but with any other government, there is not a single country that wants to be behind because it is understood the profound impact of this technology in the competitiveness of the economy. And that's why when we think about economic growth, when we think about jobs, just looking for an updated study done by IHS, post the pandemic, is forecasted about 13.1 trillion of economic activity by 2035 enabled by 5G. So that's kind of the
Wow.
size and potential. And it shows that it's going to touch many aspects of across a number of industries. And now with that, I'm going to talk about some of the use cases. I'm sure we're going to go into more details later, but it's going to be part of how we think about making factories smaller and manufacturing distributed across geographies as you connect now manufacturing equipment directly to the cloud is going to change how the enterprise of the future, especially as the enterprise is connecting now physical and digital spaces, and some people are going to be present, some people are going to be working from home, is going to continue this trend of moving the IT infrastructure to the cloud, but it also bring on-demand computing. So any device, you could basically run any application on the cloud, now having not only access to virtually unlimited bandwidth, but now virtually unlimited computing. And with that, the use cases are really vast across a number of industries. I'm happy to elaborate in any one of those in more detail as we go along.
Well, yeah, we got a lot to talk about here, but 4G brought the internet to the smartphone, and we talk about 5G. Is it bringing the internet to the enterprise, or would you say more that 4G democratized communications and open it up, and 5G's doing the same for computing, and the use cases you can't really fully comprehend at this point. The scope is so large. How do you think about it?
No, it's a very good way to ask this question, especially going to this comparison with 4G. And I'll tell a little bit the history of our company and walk you through the many generations as we think about problems to solve. So when Qualcomm, started, and I really, digital cellular and CDMA kind of put Qualcomm on the map. It was about solving a problem of having everyone with the ability to have a telephone, so you can make phone calls. That was digital cellular. With 3G, it was about starting to connect that phone to the internet, and that's where you started to see with 3G how messaging and then email, was very, very popular. 4G was about changing two things at the same time. It was about bringing mobile broadband, not only connecting to the internet so you could have text and you can have, email, but it was about creating broadband. And once you bring broadband with 4G, all of a sudden, you have to make your phone turn into a computer. So in the 4G era, it was about creating a mobile computing with broadband. It was fascinating in the beginning of the 4G era. I always tell the story because I lived through it. Everybody with their BlackBerry saying, no, nobody needs 100 megabits per second into a mobile device. It's plenty good for email until you started to see what you could happen when you put a computer in the palm of your hand, connected 100% of the time. And we saw the smartphone revolution. And yes, it's correct. 4G is how the internet got democratized, how it really closed the digital divide. The smartphone, it was the only practical tool that closed the digital divide. It wasn't like one computer per child. Many nations and individuals got access to the internet for the first time to the smartphone, and we saw the smartphone revolution. But then we got to 5G. What's the problem to solve with 5G? We look into developing 5G, thinking about a mature smartphone connected society. And the smartphone already, it's the largest mankind development platform ever created, already exceeded several years ago the number of PCs. And when we think about what are the needs of the connected society, we look into 5G as coming to solve the following problems. Unlimited data speeds. It's about being connected 100% of the time. The second thing that 5G does is allow you to depend on the cloud connectivity. You're going to be connected and you're going to count on this. This allows, for example, this technology to bring mission critical capabilities. Now you can do a remote surgery, you can connect a robot, or you can drive on, an autonomous guided vehicle. The other thing that 5G comes is if you are connected 100% with the cloud, you now have the ability to run any application you want, regardless of the computing power of your device, because now you have access to the cloud computing. That's what started to see the conversation changing about, for example, the gaming industry becoming mainstream gaming, being stream of gaming, or somebody that used to be in the office with a workstation, all of a sudden working from home with their laptop, but they can run a workstation use case connected from the cloud. And the last one, it was about not only connecting people. There was the 2G, the 3G, and the 4G before it, by connect everything to the cloud. Now, when you look at this picture, this is the simple answer to your question.
Yeah.
The 5G is about connecting everything to the cloud 100% of the time. And as a result, it will bring two things with it. It will democratize computing. You're going to bring the computing power of the cloud to every device. And then it will bring scale and purpose, and that's a very profound statement I'm going to make now, scale and purpose to AI. Because now you have the contextual information in real time of all those multiple billions of devices, and you're connected with the cloud with unlimited bandwidth. So the creation of data lakes is an exponential increase and will proliferate AI in the same way that 4G broadband proliferated mobile computing. So that's why this is a very interesting era as you started to go from democratizing the internet to giving AI scale and purpose and make computing power available to everything.
I think that's the best description I've heard of 5G. Thank you, Cristiano.
Oh, thank you.
When you take democratizing compute and the use of AI, in essence, takes us to the next conversation point, which is about edge computing. Because if the compute's done at the edge rather than pulling it back into the cloud and sending it back, it's just much more efficient, but it's also is more real time. So what are some of the cases you foresee in edge computing? Or is it particularly in the industrial sector where you talked about specialized manufacturing back on shore? What are some of the cases there that you're most excited about?
Look, I can talk about this all day, but I'll just speak a few. I'll just speak a few. And there are two very interesting topics of conversation as we think about edge computing, because 5G is actually also changing the architecture of the data centers. The data centers stays within big, concrete buildings. You have enormous amount of concentrated computing power. But those 5G capabilities and use cases are really moving the computing closer to the edge. So the data center is leaving that building, is going to a distributed architecture,
Yeah.
and getting closer to the devices at the edge. And then you can see a number of use cases. I'll give you a few examples. When you go to you ask industrial, so let's focus on industrial for a little bit. When you go to every factory, what you see today, you see, advanced factories, you have robots. Those robots have computers and servers connected to them. And also, as you go to the manufacturing line, you see cameras with computers, with images that they take photos in real time. They do quality control. They compare whatever task you're doing against a template. Now, think about now you have edge computing on cameras. Those cameras are now getting connected to the cloud with 5G. They have connected to that edge computing in the factory. They're now getting massive amount of data. You have a central location that you're doing all the computation with responses in real time. You collect the data. You apply artificial intelligence in real time to the central edge compute location, and you make decisions. And you have now a number of general purpose cameras spread to your manufacturing line, controlled by this edge computer server at the factory, all connected to 5G, having the benefit of real-time data and artificial intelligence, how the systems work between themselves. And it's just the beginning. And you do the same thing with the robots. The robot software is running from this edge computing, and you have the benefit of telemetry data for artificial intelligence in real time. So instead of having all this, each individual machines disconnected with their own computing systems. Now, I'll give you another example. When you think about the value of edge computing, this is a completely different one. Think about what's happening in the automotive industry. So you're going to have 5G connectivity. You have now also 5G V2X. You have car-to-car, car-to-pedestrian. And you have a lot of computation that you do in real time. And the easiest way to describe it, I would expect you to ask me an automotive question.
Go ahead.
But I'm just going to tell you now. Just think about, for example, when you think about navigation.
Yeah.
In navigation today, you're in your car, you look at the map, what do you see today? You see the streets, you see your position in the map, GPS tells you how you move in the map, and then based on the number of phones in the road, Google will tell you if it's yellow, green, or red, the traffic. Now, just think about, for example now, the car with 5G is connected to every other car on the road, is connected to every other pedestrian looking to their cell phones. You just populate the navigation map in real time. It is also now connected to the traffic lights. And you populate that information in real time. Now you have this following information coming to your navigation map. You're driving, and I'm not even talking about autonomy yet. You're behind the wheel, you're driving. If you're going 45 miles per hour, there's a pedestrian on the sidewalk, that's perfectly safe. But if you're tracking that pedestrian, his direction of movement is to cross in front of you, that's not a safe situation. And based on how the system is doing the calculation in real time, it can predict if it's accelerating or not, giving a warning to you, or even activate the collision, a warning system. The same thing about cars in the intersection. You come into the intersection, you're doing all this computation in real time, you're determining, is that car going to stop, or is going to be in a collision route. And the traffic light will tell you in information you calculate how many seconds to red and how to adjust your speed, and I can go on and on and on. So there is a number of different applications when you think about combining 5G and edge computing. And like I said, I can talk about this the whole day.
Well, no, I think that's terrific. So how many Qualcomm devices would you foresee in a model 2023, 24 car or
Well, if you ask me, hopefully billions, but let me give you some precise, precise answer. If you ask about 5G, we made prediction, and I'm not talking about Qualcomm, I'm just talking about the market in general. We made predictions that 5G will have resilience even with the pandemic, and we kind of finished 2020 on the high end of our guide about the market, about 225 million devices. As we head into 2021, we expect to be north of 500 million, more than half a billion 5G devices.
Yeah.
And then when you think about those other industries like the automotive industries, we have been working with over 20 of the global 26 brands, connecting, cars to the cloud, changing the digital cockpit experience. Also working with a lot of companies in the industrial IoT. And I expect that more and more as 5G and connectivity become pervasive, we're going to see a lot of growth in those devices beyond phones. But just the phone in itself is showing significant growth with, again,
Yeah.
getting at the end of 21 with more
Yeah.
than half a billion of 5G devices.
Yeah, no, you really did run through the tape at the end of 2020. It was great results, and you really are executing well. Um, well, but there's a lot of software in the products, and you have constant releases. What will be the biggest milestones in 2021 in terms of additional feature sets or complements to the existing product that's out? What,
We have been since the very beginning very bullish on the use of millimeter wave frequencies, and millimeter wave, it provides incredible capabilities to 5G, given the bandwidth and the potential for all of those advanced industrial applications. We talk about it, and we haven't even scratched the surface when you think about, for example, connecting physical and digital spaces with augmented reality, which is going to be large scale, evolution from virtual reality. And millimeter wave provides a lot of bandwidth and latency.
yeah,
Millimeter wave takes a lot to deploy because you have a more dense network, you have to add more sites. I think you look at operators such as Verizon that deploy millimeter wave, operators in Japan and deploy millimeter wave, Korea next. And as the networks get built, and we expect to get more density in 2021, we're going to see some of those applications and very advanced use cases of 5G. So I'm very bullish about millimeter wave. We're going to see that continue to be deployed in 2021. And just this week, we have an event in China. We've been celebrated on social media that a lot of successful demos with China Unicom in China, getting head for 2022, millimeter wave for the Winter Olympics. So millimeter wave evolution will bring a lot of advanced cases to 5G.
that's okay. Well, when coronavirus hit, did you see it early in your supply chain or in your customers? And talk a little bit about the early signs of it and how you responded and how to change the nature of the markets. I assume it's at the end of the day, it's going to accelerate the adoption of mobile broadband. But tell us a little bit about 2020 and that those February, March, April months.
Well, so I'll tell you about it, and I'm going to tell you something about 21 that we're just dealing with this right now as a result of it. So, look, the pandemic, I think, hit, and I'm sure caught a lot of companies and individuals having to deal with the situation. We are very fortunate, Jamie, that we are in the tech industry and the telecommunications sectors. I think, we may be experiencing right now a new golden era of telecom because telecom had kept the world working. And like even those video conferences is now the pandemic made the video telephony the killer application, something that the industry has been searching for a long time. So we have done remarkably well. How our organization is very resilient, it's very innovative. We do drink some of our own Kool-Aid, so we were able to connect all of our labs and people living with probably close to 90% working remotely, will be able to still make progress in the hardware business. We launch, new products, develop new technologies, some cases be able to increase productivity, increase the number of invention disclosures. So it's been an incredible year. It did show in our results. And and incredible sacrifices and commitment made by our employees. But that was the reality of many other companies.
Yeah.
And it was interesting as a side effect of what we've been through with the pandemic, which is, well, we'll take the broader society, and I'm speaking from our experience dealing with 3G or 4G, we'll take the broader society about 5 years, sometimes even 10 years, to recognize the benefit and the potential of technology. That was accomplished in 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Ready or not for telehealth, you're having telehealth. Ready or not for remote education, ready or not for mobile workforce, all of this stuff is happening. As a result, here's what we saw happening. Let me step back. We saw the enterprise transformation of the home, growth in PCs, connectivity, upgrade of broadband, new technologies, home Wi-Fi network, even printers. So you saw this enterprise transformation of the home. The home became an enterprise.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened is, as soon as the corporations connected their people, they realized they need to connect their assets. And we saw an accelerated digital transformation of the enterprises. So when you think the curve we saw in that you have normally about the growth of digital and connectivity and processing, we just saw advancement of this curve in time, and we have just a new base. And with that, I think not only we saw a lot of growth, but now in 21, we're seeing a significant supply chain crisis in semiconductors. Even the president of the United States, I think this week, signed an executive order calling for 100 days review of supply chain. Is the same thing happening in Europe, because we saw this increased need for digital that got accelerated by the pandemic. But overall, it's good news for the industry. I'm sure we're going to get out of this, and things are going to get back to normal at the end of this year.
Okay, well, Qualcomm has been very successful with its ventures portfolio. It's given you visibility in a lot of emerging areas, and a lot of our audience are either entrepreneurs or venture investors. What, any insights you'd like to offer on the strategy there?
Yeah, absolutely. We always look at our venture investment and our venture portfolio, not just simply, looking of, the capital return. Of course, we do that, and we have very successful, but how to also align the reason to have a venture in Qualcomm, how to align what we believe in, and how technology will transform industry, what are the disruptors in the market, and just put our money where our mouth is. And we look in investing in areas that are going to benefit for some of the technology transitions we're very focused on, or also create new industries. One of the things we take a lot of pride in being part of Qualcomm, what we do, create industries. And we look at ventures that way. And if you look at some of the successful exits we have, it's all anchored in some of those technology beliefs.
Well, I think all of us on the investor side, many of us look to build long-term, sustainable, competitive companies, and certainly Qualcomm has done that and continues to do that. And I think we all appreciate the role you're playing in supporting others to do that. And I think 5G is a great platform. So we'll wrap up with the last question. I'm kind of 5G is of national importance. Supply chain is of national importance. It's been highlighted. The enabling of AI is of national importance. So what do you think your biggest challenge will be over the next 3 to 5 years to not only lead a great company, but lead a company that's of strategic, national importance?
I think you name a few. Look, number one priority of Qualcomm by far is to execute on this 5G transition. And one of the challenges that we have is to ensure that the build out of 5G continues. Without a 5G network, without 5G infrastructure, none of this is possible. And especially as governments emerge from the pandemic, the importance of prioritize critical infrastructure that will be part of the future digital economy of many nations it's very important for the 5G success. So definitely that's the one big element. Other elements, as you know, and we just talked about that, is to continue investment in technology, especially having a robust supply chain to basically drive an accelerated growth. And some of that growth, it is not a one time. As I said, it's not just a pent up demand. We really saw a shift in time of the curve as we started to add more technology. The pandemic just accelerated that. Supply chain is important. And then I think the number three is we'll continue. We are a global company. We operate in the global marketplace and continue to navigate, to the opportunities and challenges in that space, especially as we remain focused in 5G as a single global standard.
Well, thank you, Cristiano. Thank you for joining us for the Montgomery Summit. And on behalf of all of us and all the attendees, venture investors, entrepreneurs, executives, thank you for sharing these insights and good luck with the challenges ahead.
Thank you, Jamie. My pleasure doing that. Thank you for having me and looking forward to see you soon.
Great. Thank you.